And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda commences tonight's satsang with a Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda and Rajneesh.
Our song tonight is called Appear to Me. When you walk, the earth smiles and trees bend before you. Your crown of rubies touches the blue skies, delighting the free worlds. Oh, Goddess Lakshmi, shed your bounty upon me, appear to me. May my dream of your beauty become a reality. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. From afar I see your bright garland of flowers. Shower upon me your light, shield me from darkness. I see you shining in the radiant sun. Your hand destroying the black karmas. I see you playing in the old way, melting the floating ego of illusion. When the moonlight dances on the snowy clouds, I hear you singing of eternity. O Goddess Lakshmi, gaze upon me with your infinite beauty. Give me health, wealth, and immortality. We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujya Atman, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is April the 6th, 2021, Tuesday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on Yoga Vasistha. This is series 2018, class number 328. And now Pujya Atman, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamashyadi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha Nirvana Prakarana Purvardha, Section 69, conclusion of the Bhikshu story. The story that we gave presented the world process and world experience in the form of dream within dream. And the original dreamer is only one, Brahman. To be awakened from dream is to realize, Aham Brahmasmi. Sri Rama asked, how was it possible for the dream creations of the mendicant, of the bhikshu, to become 100 Rudras? Or did they exist with Rudra Shivaganas, attendants of the divinity? The details should not confuse you. In a storyline, all the souls are essentially Shivaganas, attendants of Shiva. Shiva is Brahman. Remember different stages of liberation. Salokya, as if you live in the world of God. Samipya, you come as if you are coming closer to God. Sarupya, as if you are appearing like God. And Sayujya, you become united with God. Even this description is allegorical. Sri Vasistha explained it is one absolute that, as it were, dreams through every individual. It is the one sun that, as if dreams through so many pots of water. Not difficult to understand that the same sun is only one, but every pot has a different story about the sun. And all illuminations are dream within the dream of reflected sun. But waking up from the dream means only one, Aham Brahmasmi. All reflected suns. Even sun reflecting in a little drop of water is essentially Brahman. Every dream creation is bound to become Shiva, or the Absolute Self. Human embodiment is a form of dream creation. In other words, all your embodied life and what you think of your past, present, and future is created by your mental vrittis, thought waves of your mind. And thought waves of the mind are like dream experience, not the reality, the absolute. And you are being led from dream to dream, and more surprisingly, dream within dream. By adopting the example of the bhikshu dreams, the nature of every soul has been explained. In the process of spiritual advancement, an individual soul rises to the lofty heights of being a gana or attendant of God. This implies that he attains proximity with divine consciousness. However, with the increasing purity of his heart, he becomes one with the Absolute. We are entering to section 70, the dialogue between the king and the Betala. Betala is a demon, a mild type of demon. And it's an allegorical story. Sage Vasistha continued, by the force of inquiry into the nature of truth, the individual soul attains the state of the universal self. Vichar, or spiritual reflection, enables a person to become free from individuality and to attain realization of the essential self. As long as you are unaware or under the grip of ignorance, you view yourself as a jiva, as a reflected sun. But when ignorance is removed, you realize I am Brahman. But for removing ignorance, the key to enlightenment is inquiry, vichar. Vichar is not just ordinary intellectual curiosity. It starts with curiosity. But as intellect becomes purified, you dive deep into the mystery of your existence. Vichar paves the way to Shama, Santosh, and Satsang. Vichar is one of the 4 gatekeepers to liberation. If you, in other words, you are practicing vichar, you will be experiencing Shama, serenity, contentment, and you will be drawn to Satsanga. All they go together, all these 4 virtues go together. In ancient times, there lived a Vetala, in the country of a king known as Sajjana. Sajjana means Satjana, a person endowed with goodness. This allegorical story. Vetala is spirit of death. And the story is going to bring out who is that or who is there who is untouched by death. But follow this story and you will have more delicious understanding. This Vetala, unlike the other demoniac spirits, was an enlightened sage. The spirit of death is enlightened sage. It will not kill anyone unless there is a reason for it. However, his nature demanded that he feed on human bodies. So on one side, he will not hurt anybody. But from the point of view of the bodies, he will eat them up when your body is not needed for your evolution. So, on one side, he is the eater of lots of bodies, body after body. On the other side, he will not kill anyone who has enlightenment. And for that purpose, he had made a list of questions. If those questions were properly answered, then he will not touch the soul. Therefore, he chose to destroy only those who were ignorant. Though afflicted with hunger, he would never kill a person who was faultless. Simple point, death never strikes a person without a reason. The karmic law is followed to perfection. Now it so happened that he could not find any forest or land for a long time where he could get sufficient food. Therefore, he entered into a city, desirous of devouring men afflicted with ignorance. The king of the country, assuming the guise of an ordinary citizen, had entered into his city to investigate the condition of his subjects. Now this is the story, that on one side he has entered into a city, and the king of that city, according to his political project, used to enter into his city and talk with his citizens in disguise, like an ordinary person. And that way he was in better understanding of what was going on with his citizens. He was so good-hearted. So while he was in disguise, he encounters this Vetala, this demoniac spirit, the enlightened one. During the dark hours of the night, he encountered the Vetala, who threatened to eat him up. However, he said, "I will not eat you if you are able to answer my questions. It is my vow not to destroy anyone who is enlightened." So he presented the following questions before the king. Now the questions and answers give you a deep understanding of what we term as manana, reflection, and vichar. First question, what is that sun, the rays of which sustain numerous universes like scintillating dust particles? I'm not waiting to read the story late, but the answer to the question is, many questions he asks, but answer to every question is Brahman, the Absolute. How do you understand the nature of the world you live in relation to Brahman, the cause, the source, the substratum, the truth behind the universe? How can you mathematically describe the effulgence of the sun compared to the effulgence of so many reflected suns? Reflected suns create a whole story. Each reflected sun creates its own universe. In a simple allegorical way, think of a beam of light entering into your house, and look into it. You'll find so many sand particles scintillating in the beam of light. Think of each sand particle as a universe. Now, therefore, understand what is the relation between the sun and the universe. Your universe is so little that is compared to a little sand particle. Now we have to count how many sand particles are there. And all the sand particles put together cannot really express the effulgence, the reality, the truth of Brahman. So that's the big difference between the world experience and the truth that underlies it. The truth that underlies it is like the screen. The world experience is the projections of the citta. So how can you compare the world that is projected with the screen that is ever supporting everything. Mathematically, how can you make a relation? That's a terrible situation. Second question. What is that great wind which continues to arouse the dust storm, wherein every dust particle is a universe? Same simile is brought into another figurative language. First it was described as the beam of light. Next, a surge of dust storm. How many dust particles are there in that storm? A storm is pushing so many dust particles. And that power of the storm is Brahman. That he is the great wind. Though wandering through thousands of dreams, what is that pure substratum which is never abandoned? Though watching thousands of cinemas, the screen remains the same. Though you experience thousands of your dreams, your bed remains more or less the same. And from philosophically speaking, though you experience this world system, which is a long dream, and you may continue to experience dream within dream, but all through your experience, the sustaining reality is Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. What is that subtle atom which remains within the innermost center of the plantain stem of the universe? After all the layers of illusion that constitute that universe are peeled off into nothingness. In Vedantic practice of neti neti, you go after layers of illusion. The whole world is described in the terms of Panch Koshas, 5 layers of body, pranas, mind, intellect, ego, and unconscious. The 5 layers of illusion. And when you peel off each layer, it's like a plantain stem. Children become curious, they go on peeling to find what is the substance behind it. But nothing comes out of it. All are peeled off. The whole world experience is that type of banana that fools you. Therefore, banana. Na, da, deti, deti. What is that majestic atom before which even the whole cosmos, the very orb of the sun and Mount Meru, pale into insignificance? Why is that subtle, imperishable mountain in a small rock? What is that subtle, imperishable mountain in a small rock in which there abide the three worlds, all that is being led for you to understand? The world that you experience, the world that you envision, the world that you imagine, how vast it is, it goes beyond your own imagination. You don't know the extension of your imagination. But in spite of all the vastness of the world that you are experiencing, this entire universe that is being conceived of by your mind, the entire universe is just a little drop. The reality is like the big mountain, and a little piece of that mountain contains all the universe. For easier understanding, you must realize, when we talk of universe, we are also directing our attention to three stages: Bhutakash, Chittakash, Chidakash. When you want to describe the special quality of your Chittakash, how thoughts move. In the world of space, material objects move. In Chittakash, thoughts move. What's the difference between the space that you experience in practical world and a space that you experience in your thoughts, thought-based? The difference is vast. Physical space creates its own distances. The mental space creates a type of distance that is far beyond the range of the physical objects. In other words, you may cover 500 miles for seeing something. In a mental space, you may just cover a sneezing of your nose, and suddenly your insight may bring a totally different color of feeling and understanding, as if you have traveled thousands of miles. The king commenced to answer the questions of the Vetala. But king, before he answers, he starts giving his own, showing his own wisdom. There is a fruit that contains the whole universe. And has the coverings of earth, water, and other elements. Many such fruits exist on the branch of a strange tree. That tree contains numerous similar branches, each containing many fruits. And each fruit is actually a universe. It's so simple to understand. There are countless universes are put together in one tree. Like countless projections put together in one screen. There is a forest which abounds with thousands of such trees, and there is a mountain on which thousands of such forests exist. But there is a country abounding with thousands of similar mountains. The immensity of Brahman is being presented before you. There is an island where thousands of such countries exist. There is a great continent where thousands of such islands exist. And there is a great universe wherein thousands of such continents exist. There are thousands of such universes that exist in a great cosmic egg. There is an ocean abounding with millions of such eggs. And there is yet a greater ocean, wherein millions of such oceans are like small ripples. See how big is Brahman. He who holds within himself millions of such great oceans is the divine being Bhagavan Vishnu. Here Bhagavan Vishnu relates to Sagun Sakar, form of God. But even this Sagun Sakar, millions of Sagun Sakar cannot compare with Nirgun Nirakar. So the description is, however, there is Rudra, whose neck is adorned with the garland of millions of Vishnus. And with regards to the effulgent sun of the self, even the great Rudra is one of millions of hairs on his person. And Brahman has lots of hairs. And each hair contains millions of Rudras. So now can you give the mathematical relation? Millions of universes scintillate like dust particles in the rays of the divine sun. Thus, O Vetala, your first question has been answered. The implication of this answer is to show that the physical universe is confined to the plane of subtle elements. These subtle elements are confined in the cosmic mind. The cosmic mind is within Brahma. Brahma is within Vishnu. The great Rudra holds Vishnu within himself. And even the highest of the divine beings are like rays before the effulgence of Brahman. Before the immensity of Brahman, the entire world process is just a dust particle. Section 72. The king continues to give answers. Referring to the second question, What's the great wind which continues to arouse the dust storm, wherein every dust particle is a universe? The king continued, the great self is that wind in which the existence of time, akasha or ether, and energy are like dust particles. Numerous universes are like a dust storm raised by the self. However, the self is ever untouched by the dust of the world process. With reference to the third question, though wandering through thousands of dreams, what is that pure substratum which is never abandoned? The king replied, experiences in the world are like movement from one dream to another. The world process is a long dream. But in spite of the changing conditions of the world process, the self or Brahman is the sustainer of waking, dream, and deep sleep states, which is the support of the numerous cycles of birth and death, is ever unaffected. Therefore, it is impossible for the soul to abandon its essential nature while it sojourns through numerous dreams. Simple point, that as jiva you continue through countless births and deaths. But the jiva is a reflected sun. No matter whatever a reflected sun may do, the real sun is untouched. And that's the essential nature of every jiva. Until you discover, I am not this body, mind, set. I am Shiva. I am Brahman. That discovery is done by intuitive intellect, not ordinary intellect. Ordinary intellect becomes extraordinary by the satsanga and by your integral yoga practice in daily life. The process is progressive. It doesn't happen within a day or two. With reference to the fourth question, what is that subtle atom which remains within the innermost center of the plantain stem of the universe? After all the layers of illusion that constitute that universe are peeled off into nothingness. The king replied, this world consists of layers after layers of illusion. With increasing insight into the illusory nature of the not self, these layers are, as it were, peeled off. And what is left is divine essence. And what is left is the absolute self. That which contains nothing left. When we say nothing left, that relates to Brahman, the absolute. It is the self that sustains the illusory modifications of the world process. Just as cotton is a sustainer of a dress of cotton, in the same way, the self is the reality behind the fabric of the world process. Referring to the fifth question, what is that action? Rather, what is that atom before the majesty of which even the whole cosmos, the very orb of the sun, moon, and Meru, Mount Meru, pale into insignificance? And the king replied, the self is that atom because it cannot be perceived by the senses and the mind, but yet it contains the whole universe within itself. Dreaming consciousness is subtler than the astral channels, and yet it contains the objects of dream. In the same way, the self, being the subtlest reality, contains all that exists. Referring to the sixth question, what is that subtle mountain in a small rock in which there abide the three worlds? Three worlds is Bhur, Bhuva, Swa. Physical world, your psychological world, your causal world. That mountain is the self. Self is like a big mountain, and with all the three worlds are just a little pore, a little hole in that big mountain. It is an infinitesimal aspect of this immutable self that sustains the world process without undergoing any real change within itself. See, if you want to put mathematics, what portion of the sun expresses through countless illuminations day by day? Use your mathematics, and it will be only ticks for your head. Though sustaining multiplicity and differentiation, that rock is one homogeneous mass. That's pointing to Chaitanya, pure consciousness. The world in its essence is that immutable rock of the self. Prajnanam Brahma. All this is pure consciousness. Having heard the answers presented by the king to his questions, the Vetala was immensely satisfied, realizing that the king was an enlightened soul. He forgot about his hunger and entered into deep samadhi. That's the freedom from the death virus. So with this I will be concluding for today. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om. Special prayer for the Mausi of Shri Ram, Tara Bhate. And the prayer is that may she be healed speedily from major surgery in India. And my prayer is also for all to be blessed with, first prayer, success in surgery and speedy recovery, and all international, universal prayer, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, may all be happy. Om. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om. Ram, 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 Ram. Om. Trayambakam Yajamahe, Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam, Urvarukum Bandhanan, Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Are there any questions tonight? Sri Ram.
Ram Gurudev. Gurudev, you described Bhutakash, Chittakash, and Chidakash, and then Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So is there correspondence in those two terms, and also the causal body and gross body and subtle body?
More specifically, Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Bhu relates to your practical reality, practical world. Bhuva, your sentimental world. And Swa, your world of understanding. And the world of understanding covers everything else. So that's a subtle point behind it.
Thank you, Gurudev.
And we conclude for tonight. Join Swamiji tomorrow night at 7:30.
Om Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Thank you.